So today I had a chance to do a little bit of thinking, and I came up to the realization that the reason why a lot of people don't achieve their goals is simply because of fear. A lot of people are worried about what other people are going to think about them or how they're going to be perceived to everyone in the public. And you really can't even do that. It's not really good to do that. You need to have faith in yourself and you need to have faith in God and what you are capable of. God is not giving you the spirit of fear, but of peace, love, and a sound mind. So when it comes to achieving your goal, I understand now why they tell people like, hey, you shouldn't tell everybody, because there are going to be a lot of people that's going to try to distract you or tell you can't do it or put self-doubt into your mind and make you doubt yourself. And you got to have a strong mind in order to overcome that. There are a lot of people that might be jealous or envious of you that you are taking that leap of faith and you are working towards something to achieve your goal. And they might not be there mentally to do that yet. So what they do is they'll try to keep you off track. But you know what? Your path is not their path to follow. Everybody has a different path. Fear is something that's just imaginary. A lot of people are afraid to fail, but to me, there's no such thing as failing. You just learn how not to do something again or that same way. You just learn how not to do something. So you're really not failing. You're really basically teaching yourself how to do something the right way and get better at whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Think about the Wright brothers that created the airplane. I'm pretty sure when they were thinking about, hey, why can't we fly like birds? Or wouldn't that be great if we could fly like, the birds or soar like eagles? And I'm pretty sure, and I'm almost pretty positive that when they were talking about that and when they were telling people that, people were probably like, man, y'all are crazy. Y'all are never going to be able to do that. But you know what, though? They kept at it and they weren't scared and they didn't care how they looked in front of people and they kept trying and trying and trying. And now look what we got, all types of airplanes. We got jets. We even trying to go into outer space, all because they took that leap of faith. They believed in themselves. They didn't think that they were crazy because they knew that anything was possible and they weren't scared. And think about like the person that invented the TV. Oh man, like you'll never be able to record somebody and then play it back, and then you look at your images of yourself. People probably thought that they were crazy. Every invention out here that we are using right now, people probably thought that they were crazy, and people probably thought that it didn't make sense. But you know what? Those people that created all of those inventions, they were not scared of how people perceived them, and they could care less about what people think. And that is the same way and the same attitude that you need to have when you're out trying to achieve your goals. You can't be scared about what people think. You can't worry about how other people are going to perceive you, because a lot of times those people, they're scared. So they want to project their fear on you because they're scared to do it. And they want to stay in the same spot. They want you to stay in the same spot because they don't want you to reach a higher level, because if you reach a higher level, then that means that they're going to have to step it up. And sometimes people don't want to step it up. And that's why you have to live in your truth, because when you live in your truth and who you are and you living in your purpose, you're going to attract like-minded people that are in your purpose. So you're going to have that support system that you need, those people that's going to encourage you. When you're not living in your truth and you're, living a facade that you're really not, then you also attract the wrong type of people, because you can only put up a front for so long. The real you is going to come out. And when you start living in your real truth, then a lot of those people who you thought maybe were your support group or your friends, and maybe sometimes it's even family, it could be your spouse, those people all of a sudden aren't around anymore because they were attracted to, or they thought that you were something else, or they were attracted to the front that you were trying to portray, and you weren't living in your true self. And that's another form of fear. A lot of people are scared to be themselves because they're scared of how people are going to perceive them, or they're scared that, oh, people might not like me if I dress like this, or people might not like me if I present myself like this. As long as you're not doing anybody any harm and you're living in your truth, then who cares what people think? I would rather people judge me from being myself and me being able to sleep at night than me trying to keep up with the Joneses and I'm living a life that I really don't want to live. It happens to everybody. Like, for example, with me, when I stepped out on faith, and I started this this podcast, Cowboy Trav and the Saddle Talk podcast. I had to step out on faith. Part of me was scared. Part of me was scared, to even start a YouTube channel, because I'm looking at all these other channels and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh man, they got all this fancy equipment. I don't sound like them. I don't look like them. But who cares? I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to look like myself. I'm supposed to be myself, because I am who I am. There's only one me. There's just like there's only one you. So why not present the best you to the world? And like I said, it's called the Saddle Talk Podcast, and my name is Cowboy Trav. I know I said it earlier, but I said it backwards. But, you cannot have that fear. You cannot be scared to be who you are. And when you are who you are authentically and you're living in your purpose, that fear just subsides, man. You cannot have fear of anything. It's like, I remember when I first learned how to swim in the deep end. I was scared to jump in the deep end. But a lot of times when people live in fears because they doubt themselves. When I was jumping into the deep end, it's like, well, you learned how to swim. Like, why do you think you think you're just going to forget everything when you jump into the deep end? Or, for example, say you've been playing the guitar for a long time and some individuals want you to play for them, but then all of a sudden you freeze up, or you like, oh, what if I don't sound right? Well, you sound right when you're by yourself. So that same person, that same you is still there. It's just that you are worried about what people, or you're worried about what people are going to think or what people are going to say. And 9 times out of 10, those people are it's not even worth their opinion anyway. And a lot of times they can't do what you do. I remember when I first did the bodybuilding show, like I said earlier, I was a nervous wreck, man. I was scared. I'm not going to even lie to you. I was really scared. And I almost wanted to go get a refund, but you can't get a refund. So, it is what it is. But, so I trusted the process, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it is a little nerve wracking when you're on stage and, you got all these muscles and you look at all these other people and you're worried about how you're looking and all that. But, once you get up there and you do it and you realize it's not so bad, and you just kind of like, oh man, it's not that bad, and then you look at all the photos, you're like, man, I look pretty good. And you also never know who you're going to inspire. I remember when I was in college, I used to run at night. I started jogging at night. That's when I really got into fitness. I started jogging at night. And one of my friends is like, well, why do you jog at night, man? I'm like, well, because I don't really anybody to see me. He was like, why? You never know who you are going to inspire. You never know who's watching you, and ever since then, I have always stepped out in faith, and I really could care less about what people perceive or how people think. Now, every now and then, you get a little nervous, but, you just got to say, oh, well, it is what it is. I'm just going to be it. And if they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they like it. Do you like it? Are you doing what you want to do? Are you living the life that you want to live? Are you fulfilling the dreams that you want to fulfill? Because you're not on this earth living for anybody else. You're living for yourself. Now, if you have kids, you are living for your kids, but you can live for your kids doing what you do that drives you, and also that you're passionate about, as long as it's not anything negative or just causing harm to anybody. One of my colleagues had a quote that they said today. They were like, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. That's really what you got to do. And I don't know who made that quote. Shout out to whoever made that quote. I got it from him. He said that he was listening to a podcast and he got it from that podcast. But whoever made that quote, shout out to you. That's one of the realest quotes that I've ever heard. Well, one of the realest quotes I've ever heard. And you also got to work hard, and you cannot care what other people think. People are going to be themselves. So you cannot worry about them. Some people are going to be in your life. Some people are just going to walk out of your life. But at the end of the day, as long as you are living in your truth and you are living your purpose, you can't worry about what someone else does. And you cannot force anyone to think like you, and they can't force you to think like them. You cannot force anyone to stay in your life, and no one can force you to stay in theirs. And why would you want to anything? Anyway, if it's not organic, or if it's not just natural, then 9 times out of 10, it's probably not even worth the headache at all. So I say to you, you can't be scared. You can't have any fear. You have to just keep doing it over and over again and working at it. Anything that you work at, you will get better at. I mean, when I first started this YouTube channel, like I really didn't know what to expect. One day I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. And I'm not trying to compare myself to anyone else. My name is Cowboy Trav. I have the Saddle Talk podcast, and that is me, and that is my own. And it's like, everyone else has their own and they're living in their truth, but you can live in yours. You don't have to compare yourself to everyone. And that's what a lot of people do. And it's really like that when you go to the gym. I know for a lot of the gym enthusiasts out there, I know when you go to the gym, and I catch myself doing it sometimes too. Maybe I'm working on arms and I see somebody else, their arms are just like huge. And I'm like, man, I wish I had arms like that. But you know what though? They probably looking at you and they noticing like, man, he got a nice chest. I wish my chest was like his. So you never really know. You cannot focus on anybody but yourself. Every morning when you wake up and you look in the mirror, you are competing against you. You are the only person that whose validation is worth validating or paying attention to. When you validate yourself, self-improvement. It's called self-improvement. You're improving yourself. You're not trying to, I mean, you can help other people, but at the end of the day, at some point, they're gonna have to take the reign and help themselves. But you got to make sure that you're living in your truth and you're not living in fear. Because when you're living in fear, then that kind of sidetracks you from your purpose. I mean, like you probably could be a doctor and it's meant for you to be a doctor, but you're probably scared to take that one step to go to med school or take the MCAT because you probably are like, oh man, what if I don't pass? Or what if I fail? Or what if I'm not good at it? Well, you'll never know until you try. Nothing beats a failure but a try. So you have to try. You have to put forth the effort and you cannot live in fear. I cannot stress this enough. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be successful and live in your truth and to really present yourself and put yourself out there. But you'll never know if you just stay in the back and sit way, way back in the bleachers instead of sitting on the front row of life. Like, who wants to do that? Life is short and it's meant to be lived. So why not live it the way you want to live? Why not do the things that you want to do? Why not do the things that make you happy without fear of anything else? It's just like, you just have to, dig deep within yourself. And then you have to make sure that you're living in your truth, and you cannot be scared. I know I'm saying it over and over again, but I want you all to really understand that fear is the only thing that's stopping you from achieving your goal, and it's stopping you from being the best person that you could be in life, no matter if you're a woman, a man, or female, man or woman. I know a lot of times people don't like the word female or male. If you're a man or a woman, you have to step out on faith and you have to step out without fear. Now, there is this one movie, Indiana Jones. And it's the Last Crusade. And he has to take this one final step before he gets the goblet. I know some of you all, if you all don't know this, watch Indiana Jones Last Crusade. It's a good movie. But at the end, he has to take the leap of faith. And when he has to go across like this mountain, but there's no bridge, but he has to have faith that it's there. And if he doesn't have the faith, he'll plummet. So he grabs his heart and he takes the first step, and guess what? There's a bridge there, and he's able to get to the cave, and yada yada yada. He gets the cup for his dad and brings it back. But you have to watch the movie to really understand it. But he didn't have fear. He just sucked it up and he just went for it. Just like when I learned how to swim a long time ago, I was scared to jump in the deep end. And I'm thinking to myself, like, did I all of a sudden just forget all of the techniques on how to swim or anything like that? Did I think that everything is just going to happen and I'm going to forget everything? No. So I just went ahead and jumped in. And guess what? I floated, I swam, I tread water, and I survived. And I mean, and I swam. Now, can my swimming get better? Yeah, it can. But, I conquered that fear. Just think about when you first started driving, you got your driver's license. Oh man, how am I going to drive? You conquered that fear. You have to be that same way about your goals and your dreams. And you can't be scared. You can't be scared to fail. Like I said, there's no such thing as failing. Basically, what you are doing is you are learning how to do it better and you're getting better. Failing, and when you fail, don't look at it as failing. It's practice. You're practicing on getting better. So now you know what not to do. So now adjust and swing a little harder. I remember when I was playing baseball, they would tell us all the time, you have to choke up on the bat and swing, man. Just keep swinging, and keep swinging. Eventually, you'll hit a home run. You'll knock it out the park, man, and then on to the next goal. But you cannot live your life in fear. Those who don't take risk even more. So you have to be willing to take the risk. You have to be willing to make the sacrifice. And you also have to be willing to get over and overcome your fear. Every morning you wake up and you look in that mirror, it is you versus you, not you versus everybody's opinion or you versus everybody's thought pattern of you, because you can't really control people's thoughts or anything like that 100%. They're going to think what they want to think regardless, whether they say they like you or not. And sometimes it could be family, it could be friends, it could be your spouse, so you have to live in your truth and you have to live without fear. So with that being said, keep it cowboy, keep it country, and God bless America.